morning everyone, and welcome to the first garden update of winter 2021. And it's definitely getting to the stage now where I have to wear a jumper or jacket when I'm out here in the early morning or before the sun sets. But you know what, this garden is still looking pretty green, even though there aren't any big bursts of colour here like there was back in summertime. And I'm still waiting on those winter annuals like pansies and violas to bring back a bit of rainbow. There is plenty to look at, so why don't you grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee or a cold beverage if it's a bit warm where you live. Sit back for a few minutes and let me show you around. I'm starting off today out here in the front garden beside the Mexican marigold to show you a very prehistoric looking fruit. So a couple of weeks ago when I was collecting my kids from school, one of my friends gave me a bag full of these. They may look a little bit familiar to you because I do grow these. They're called kiwanis, but I grow a different variety. Here's one I've just picked off the vine. It's so spiky. Actually, that's one thing I've noticed. This particular one doesn't seem to be as bad. See there, they don't look as sharp, do they? A bit more blunt than these ones that are as pointy as needles. I can even feel them digging into me while I hold this. And before we get into a bit more detail about this unusual edible, can I just acknowledge how generous gardeners are when it comes to sharing like seeds, cuttings, plants, knowledge and amazing crops like this that they've grown themselves. I've had to move to a more shaded area because it's raining here today and it's starting to get quite heavy. So with both of these, they haven't quite ripened yet. This one is still very green. The one behind it still has a hint of green, but you can see a bit of a yellow tinge to it. So this one turns to more of an orange colour and this one more of a darker yellow. As I said, I've had these for 2 weeks. I've left them on the windowsill hoping they would change and ripen up, but they don't seem to be doing much at all. So what I did anyway is I just went ahead and cut one open to show you what it looks like in the inside. Actually, before I do that, I did want to also mention that I've been calling these kiwanis, but they do go by a few other different names like horned melons, spiked melons and jelly melons. The flesh on both of these should really be a lot greener. This one's definitely not ready to eat, and I don't believe this one is either. Each of the seeds are covered with this gelatinous pulp. They have quite thick skin on them. I think they're just such a fascinating fruit which originates from Africa. I'm really quite surprised that I don't see these for sale in supermarkets because having grown them now for the last few years, not this particular variety, but the ones down here, they seem to keep really well if you store them in the fridge. It's a beautiful rainy winter's day here. I actually heard on the news yesterday that for the next few months it's going to be pretty wet here where I live along the east coast of New South Wales, Australia. If you're wondering where I'm standing, I'm actually up on the veranda looking down towards the back of the garden. Got the orange tree, the lemon tree there, and just behind it's the mulberry tree. And then if you come around here to the left hand side, this is where I have the raised garden bed area over in this section beside the clothesline. I'm now standing beside our main orange tree, and I know there's a lot of new people to the channel, so for those of you who've been watching for a while, just bear with me for a minute because I want to help them get an idea of the layout. So I was standing just up there, and then over here on this side the garden actually slopes downwards. So behind this tree was the lemon tree, over there is the mulberry tree, and then just down the back through this archway is the fan garden, followed by the chicken run area. I haven't actually let them out yet. I better go down and make sure they're all right. This section that I have to pass by is a bit like a wattle forest. I have all of these branches that are dangling over my footpath into the back area down there. I just noticed that these wattles or acacias have heaps of little flower buds on them. These usually open up in late winter here, which is in about August, and they really are the first big burst of colour here to welcome spring. With acacia trees, I often read that they don't have a very long lifespan. So unlike, say, the orange tree, for example, that can last up to, on average, about 50 years, acacias would be much shorter than that. So in this area, there's actually 4 acacias. This one is the oldest of them, which has been here quite some time. And then about 3 years ago, I planted 2 as little tube stocks that are doing really well. And then there's this one that we just had a look at. It's a bit of a mystery because I don't remember planting it. It may have self-seeded, but I'm telling you, out of the 4 of them, it's looking the best. You can see with this one here, every year I actually end up having to cut off some dead branches, and it looks like I may have to do it again this year with, say, this one. So I just like to plan ahead, and I wanted to get a few more trees in this area to sustain, you know, the wildlife, and just add a nice bit of greenery, beautiful flowers. You know, it's got a lot going for it. I wanted to get them in before this one completely dies off. I just have to be careful because look at all the water on them. I'll get my phone wet. And you know, it's really weird. This morning when I woke up, I had a really sore back, and I'm finding it super hard to kind of bend down at the moment. I've made it through. I still haven't cut back this salvia. And over here, look what I spotted. There's something going on with the bougainvillea that I have growing up along this side of the archway. And I'm just hoping I didn't leave it too late, because to be honest with you, I didn't notice this was happening. I had the cucamelon vines growing over the opposite side, and I think it's green foliage, which is starting to die back now, but I think it kind of camouflaged the fact that there was something going on with this perennial climber. I do have a few leaves on it, but you can see there's a bit of browning. There must be some kind of disease on it. I'm going to be pretty upset if I lose this plant, because I put it in a few years ago as a tiny little $3 tube stock. I was so patient with it, and now it looks like it's dying off. I'm going to have to do research on this because I don't know enough about it. I'm now standing in the fan garden over here beside the pineapple sage, which I'll be cutting back soon. I'll harvest all of these and hang them upside down. Maybe not that one. One that looks a bit healthier than that. Hang them upside down, put them in the sunroom to let them dry. So pineapple sage, as I've said a lot of times before, it makes really nice tea. It has a beautiful flavour and aroma. Well, beside that, I've got the cotton plant, which I've been growing for 2 years. I overwintered it last year, taking pretty good care of it. It's had another entire summer here, and it still hasn't produced any cotton yet. I just don't know what to do with it. Should I leave it in the ground for another cycle, protecting it over winter, or will I just pull it out, put it down to a garden fail, try and learn from my experience, and maybe sow some seeds again in spring and try for a round 2? What do you reckon? Good morning, girls. Come on, out you get. Autumn's looking a little bit wet. I'm sure they'll find a nice place to hang out under and avoid all of this rain. Now that we're into winter with shorter days and cooler weather, these girls won't be laying as many eggs. I'm certainly no chicken whisperer, but apparently chickens can sense the reduction in light, which indicates to them that the daily temperatures will drop. And I believe that they reduce their egg production in order to preserve energy, which they redirect into keeping their bodies warm. I'm not sure why they're all just hanging out in the open getting wet here, because usually they don't like the rain very much. They must be pretty hungry, looking for some grubs and insects. Their coop is full of feed, but I don't know, we'll just leave them be. But you know what, I'm actually going to head off now because I'm getting pretty wet. I've got an umbrella over my head, but my clothes are still getting pretty soaked. I will see you guys next Friday. Thanks for watching, everyone.